So Tesla's been making some very bold moves. And the question is it enough? Or maybe they're making too much of a bold move. We're talking about investments in compute. We're talking about the reorganization into Robotaxi and becoming a robotics AI company. And of course, there's the annual shareholder meeting. Is Tesla doing enough about that? We've got Alex Voigt joining us. He's a Tesla community member based in Europe. And we've got Jeff Lutz also. So let's start with you, Alex. What do you think about that question?
So we've seen a lot of drama in the last weeks and maybe even months. And some of you guys know that I'm around since a long period as an investor, as you guys are. So it's more than 10 years now since I'm invested. And all what I hear, I reflect to that what I've seen in the past, and I value and assess it based on that. And this gives me a little bit a more distant perspective. So I'm not especially nervous about what's happening right now, to be honest. We've seen in the past times where Tesla has been really in a dangerous, difficult situation. And in the aftermath, I've been too positive about the company in terms of my assessment where they are going. But if we look where we stand right now, everything worked out really very nicely. And right now we see that the company is making a decisive shift into robotaxis. And I believe this is exactly the right move, because the growth and the value and the profit can be found in autonomy, in autonomous vehicles, and also in humanoid robots. And Elon is a person who is not making compromises. And he's in a position that he doesn't need to make any compromises. And the past has shown that this was always the right move and the right step. In the short term, a lot of people don't like what they see because of the drama, because of the uncertainty, because of, a lot of investments and a lot of developments need to work out before the profits really come in. But Elon looks more into the long run, and what he wants to achieve is making Tesla the major company in autonomous vehicles and also in humanoid robots. And from that perspective, everything he is doing right now is not even bold. It's a necessity. It's a right step in order to achieve what he's looking for. So therefore, I'm all but nervous here. I think the company is moving the right direction. I really like that he's still very much looking on costs and bringing this down. I like that he's investing a lot, billions and billions, into AI, be it with Tesla or be it with X. And I think the results we've seen so far justifies that move. What we have is a situation where we do not have a lot of transparency what's going on within Tesla. There's a lot of speculation what exactly is going to happen in August at the Robotaxi unveil, what's going to be unveiled, what we are going to see. So it's always a little bit reading in between the lines if it comes to Elon and Tesla. And actually, I think he has a lot of fun in, giving us some breadcrumbs and looking at how people are speculating what's happening. And he did the same today, and he's doing this every second day. And that's fine. I think what I, as an investor, like to see is a company that is looking for the long term. And the developments of the company are proving them right. We all heard about the 20 million vehicle not being mentioned, and there's a lot of discussion about that. I don't consider this as an issue. So sometimes I'm asking myself also about the Tesla community, what they are discussing, simply because there's a lot of noise. and they all add to that noise. But what I'm doing is I'm really looking for the signal, and I'm looking for the information in this huge haystack that really gives me the confidence that I'm here with my money invested in the right company. And as you probably can read from me here talking, I feel like I'm exactly where I want to be, because it's in my opinion, heavily undervalued company. If you look at the auto and energy business, where this is going to, what kind of profit I'm expecting there in the future. But in particular, as I mentioned, if we talk about, everything Elon is doing in terms of AI, and I'm also believing that he's investing also in AGI nowadays. And he mentioned that before. So if you look at his reactions in terms of OpenAI or Microsoft or Google or you name it, it's becoming very clear that he's comparing himself and the trajectory of the company with those big guys out there. And I think there's a very bright future, but we have to have a lot of patience. This is not going to happen within, a day's month, or even it will take its time. And I'm not saying that robotaxis will take years. I don't think so. I think this is going to happen way quicker than most people anticipate. And you guys discussed this in length already before, so we have the proof and we know what is happening, and everybody who's looking a little bit deeper understands the technology Tesla has developed and why they are leading here. But as indicated before, another extremely important aspect of the company is also the cost management, which is not mentioned enough, because Tesla is really leading the pack here. And this is one of the many reasons why they are able to reduce prices if they want to, in terms of vehicles, and they are still extremely stable and safe company. So I don't see the big risk a lot of people are talking about, but happy to discuss that. There are different opinions, obviously. And not everything is going smoothly. I mean, if you think about the Delaware court's decision, which is kind of a slap in the face of shareholders, and it's incredible that a judge simply can overturn more than 70% of the shareholders years later after they made a decision, and everything is now kind of put again on the table. But if we look a little bit deeper, we also need to understand that the vote that is happening right now is actually not deciding whether the comp plan is going to stay intact or not. A lot of people make a big story out of that, and that's fine. But there are processes, there are other options for Elon to get paid. And I also don't see the risk that Elon is going to leave if, and I doubt it's going to happen, but let's assume the vote is going to be negative. I don't see that he's going to leave, simply because these companies are like his children. He's been growing and nurturing and investing blood, sweat, and tears over the years. So I don't see that someone is abandoning the children simply because something is not going as planned. I don't see that. There's so much to gain in the future for Elon with his companies, and so much I think he wants to accomplish, that I don't see any realistic scenario where he would get second thoughts about his future. But we can discuss it a little bit later on in more depth.
Yeah. So it sounds like, Alex, that you are comfortable with everything that's happening right now. So I want to ask you, Jeff, do you think that the investment in compute is enough? Should they be more bold about that? The reorganization in the company, is that enough, or have they done too much? And then specifically for you, I wanted to ask whether or not you felt that this, this plan where they're going to have multiple affordable car vehicles in addition to the Robotaxi first design vehicle, all coming out at the same time, all being designed at the same time. Is that too much?
Yeah, Herbert, I'll hit those topics, and appreciate Alex going through kind of his whole, summary of where he's at on the company. I do think this is a kind of a transformative time for Tesla, and it's been through a couple of these before. In terms of, is the reorganization, was it deep enough? Were the cuts deep enough? I'll leave that for Elon and the management to decide on. I mean, I do think that he has an approach of go a little bit deeper than you may feel comfortable with at the time, and we can always add back if we find that we've broken something structurally. But there's a couple of different mindsets in doing this, and one of the mindsets that he has is basically break some things and then go back and try to patch up and do some fixes later. In the long run, you'll have a much more efficient operation. So I've seen this before. I've actually administered this in some respects, and it's difficult. But at this scale, I don't think anybody's done it before. He did it with Twitter as well, which is now X. So I trust in his ability and to make the right decisions, and there may be more to come. In terms of AI, one of the things I've thought about is XAI, the $5 to $7 billion investment round. It's basically they're going to be turning over and buying a tremendous amount of compute and recruiting more resources, really building up this team. And then I see Tesla's AI efforts, and Tesla's recruiting AI folks, and they're purchasing compute. And I know there's been a lot of questions about this in the Tesla community, like, is this good for Tesla? And the more I think about it, and I've been actually on the side of really questioning this, and I still have questions about it. But one of the outcomes I see, and one of the strong outcomes I see happening, is basically XAI is going to serve Tesla's products, and I think they're going to have some exclusive and primary relationships, and I think there'll be a way to do very deep integration of the technology. So, like, for example, Elon has talked about this. I've tweeted at him. He's responded regarding about Grok integration in the vehicle. When it's done the right way, Tesla's when you do proper hardware software integration, you can make it really seamless and a really great experience for the consumer. If you do things kind of in a clunky way, like I'm going to go buy this from this company, go buy that from that company, and go buy this from this other company, and try to put it all together, that's where you get the latency. That's where you get the fall scene. That's where you get all the kind of the performance that isn't like, it doesn't feel like it's something from the future. And I think Tesla is going to have XAI and Tesla AI working together in a way where they're going to produce some really amazing products that you don't see available today in its current form. Right now, you see language models running on smartphones and tablets and some computers. And I think they're going to work really well together. So on the AI side, I see them continuing to buy more compute. I think the key thing to focus on is that compute efficiency and how they can improve upon that. They've also got a power element that they've got to manage. Blackwell draws more power. So there's a number of different things that they have to work with, but I'm not here to say that I know, like, if they purchase more compute or they need to buy more compute. I think in general they're in the top 5, and I think they're going to continue building as much compute that's needed to achieve AGI in terms of real world objects moving through the world. The product plan you asked about, is it too much going on? I think Tesla over the last couple of years has grown a fairly healthy product development and supply chain network. And I predicted on this show earlier, a couple of weeks ago, that I believe the products that come before the next generation platform, I think they'll be done out of Shanghai. And I think the reason is it's this whole concept of network latency, where you've got 97% locally sourced supply chain right next to your Shanghai factory, and they've been hiring engineering effort and engineering efforts and industrial design effort and resources for that area. So I actually believe the products may be developed there, and that will free up, not free up, but allow the U.S. side to continue focusing on problem solving, getting Cybertruck to scale, finishing the next generation platform design, and maybe some amount of time or bandwidth to be focused on the Roadster. But in general, I think Tesla's grown from kind of having the whole product development effort going through Fremont and going through California too. I think it's really opened up, both with prototyping now in Austin, and then I think Shanghai's got its own effort as well. So I don't think it's too much. I think there's going to be I think the key thing for Tesla, and the key thing, if you kind of pull the covers back, is the amount of reuse that they're going to have between these products. That's the key thing. From is it too much or not? When you look at BYD and you look at them, they're pretty close in EV volumes with Tesla. They're doing that with 21 different models. And Tesla got to that point with 4. Now they've added 5 with the Cybertruck, and it just so that volume per part number is the key thing, and that design effort, the number of part numbers that have to be managed. Actually, the supply chain leaders, they presented that in the Investor Day presentation, and that's a really important metric to kind of keep an eye on. Tesla's has a pretty efficient approach. So in summary, I think the product plan's fine. And I think what it's going to allow them to do, in summary, is it's going to allow them to extend the life of the CapEx for the Model 3 and the Y, like the major CapEx, I believe. And it's going to allow them to pre-ramp the modules that will go into the unboxed model for the next generation platform, and to debug them. So when the next generation platform actually goes to ramp with its new unboxed model and its own mechanical parts, it's going to have these modules input into the unbox process that are going to be at full rated velocity, full rated yield, and at their price point. So it's going to help the time to peak volume, and then the time to break even on the next generation platform. It's going to bring that time down, and it's going to extend the capital life of our existing major fleet. So I think this is going to really help Tesla's cost structure.
Good. I'm so glad you said that, because I feel much better now, Jeff, because you have been saying for the last several months, number one is you were a little worried when the original plan was build Giga Mexico, brand new factory, and then a brand new vehicle there. You were already cautious about that, warning about that. And then what you just said, which is, Tesla only has really 4 vehicles. They have a lot of reuse of parts. And so for them to do affordable models based on those production lines is not going to be too crazy. I feel better that you feel that way as well. I agree with you about the compute power. You know that several months ago, Alexandra and I specifically were complaining a little bit, going, we want to see Tesla step up and invest billions, 10 billion or more in compute, because we were watching all these other, these big companies investing so much. Now we're hearing that Tesla and XAI are both right up there, number 2, number 3 in terms of number of compute. I'm feeling much better about that. So let's talk about the annual shareholder meeting. This is one of the next events in the next 90 days that are going to be critical for Tesla. So Alex, do you think that Tesla's doing enough? Elon's doing enough to make sure that they win this? We're seeing them invest heavily in advertising. They've been communicating like crazy to the shareholders. And in fact, we've been hearing that they're actually contacting major shareholders as well. And yet we've heard companies like Calpers, organizations like Calpers, who are saying that they're going to vote no. Do you guys think that they're doing enough for the annual shareholder meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think about any part that they left out. I mean, I see them doing right and left and center here in terms of engaging with shareholders, starting discussions giving them goodies if they vote. And, there's a lot going on, which is quite unusual for Tesla, reaching out to shareholders like that. I don't recall any shareholder meeting where they've been so active and, trying to motivate them. And so I think they're doing enough. Will it be enough for everything to pass is another question, and you guys have discussed that before, and I partially agree. I think that it's gonna be harder to get the corporation settled in Texas through for obvious reasons compared to the comp plan. But we will see. It's interesting what's happening right now. But again, this is not going to be the end of the road. If the comp plan is not approved at the shareholder meeting, Tesla still will appeal the court case in Delaware anyway. It's helpful to have, let's say, another 70% approval rate, obviously, but it's a totally nuts situation we are in, because I've been around, and you guys been around the shareholders years ago when the decision was made for the lofty objectives Elon signed up for, and everybody was laughing because saying, and I wasn't actually, but everybody was laughing saying this will never materialize, and Elon made it happen. And now, years later, a new set of shareholders can, once again say if Elon should, get his compensation for the impossible that he achieved, yes or no. So it's totally unreal. It doesn't make any sense, and it's still happening. Therefore, I, personally, for instance, here, me being in Germany with German banks, you just can't vote. So just put yourself in my shoes. I'm fully invested in Tesla, and I'm happy that I'm fully invested. There's a decisive decision to be made at the shareholder meeting, and the banks in Germany block German shareholders to vote. So, and in some of the questions we usually should be able to vote on, not voting means a no vote. So it's all but democratic what's happening here. And you can claim, okay, this is just a few people here out in Germany, but it's spread all over Europe. And Alexandra did a great job in trying to help here a little bit. But it's also a little bit a structural issue with the clearinghouses and the way the banks are set up. But there's also an unwillingness to to make it happen. And I'm saying this because I've been with my bank years and years in discussion about that issue. This is not happening for me in the last months. This is years and years conversation with them, trying to convince them to make it happen, simply because as a shareholder, you purchase a right to vote when you buy your shares. So, and they just take that right away without any justification, and telling us we are legally not responsible for that to make it happen. So that's a little bit a side story what's happening here in Europe, and but very annoying for a lot of people. And you just can't switch your shares to a US depot fast enough or to a broker fast enough. A lot of people have done that, but and I've I put a poll out just to create a little bit ammunition to show the banks here, in particular in Germany, because Germany is kind of a hard rock in terms of banks saying no to this, to convince them that they are losing a lot of shareholders and a lot of customers if they don't change their policy. And I didn't look into it this evening, but it's been pretty stable on 73% of all people who've been voting saying they are going to leave their bank here in Germany, simply because the bank doesn't allow them to, execute their shareholder rights. And it's understandable, but it's annoying. So back to your question, are they doing enough? I think definitely. Will it be enough to get all things through they are looking for? I don't know, because we've seen that some of the large shareholder institutions are already explained that they are going against it. And it's frustrating to see that, because if you listen to the words, why, there's a lot of strange things coming out, and it feels like they are really not informed what all of this is about. And they don't appreciate the value Elon has created for the company in all of these years. And they also don't seem to understand that this is not a payout or, some cash he gets in the bank. It's not at all like that. So I think there's a lot of confusion, misunderstanding, even with the big funds. And that is frustrating to see. But we will see how the outcome will look like. At the moment, I believe, as I said, that the comp plan is probably going to go through, but bringing the company back to or into Texas is going to be a little bit bigger challenge, although it would be more important. But we will see.
Okay. And then how about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd like to think that the comp plan that was voted on by, greater than 70% of the shareholders would be reapproved. We actually have the information that we were, you actually have the answers to the test. Like, you voted on the comp plan in 2018, and now the company's worth 11x more. I don't know how else to, like the work's been done, and it was done early. So I would like to think that that would be approved. I would like to think that the people that hold the stock now aren't like angry. Like, I hate, if there's companies like where I hate the work that they're doing, or I don't like their CEO for some reason, I don't own their stock. I don't own companies out of spite. And even if there's some level of hey, I'm holding, something at a loss, if I were in a particular company, I would still cut it if I didn't think that the company was moving in the right direction. So my point there is, I'd like to think that the people that are holding the stock are kind of pro the company and pro which the company is telling you to vote, for these specific items. And I'd like to think that they're pro Elon. But again, I think there's going to be some noise. And I agree with Alex. The move to Texas, that's on all available shares. And to me, the travesty, the thing that should be in front of this judge, and the thing that should be talked about a little bit more, is the millions of shares that can't be voted on. To me, that's the biggest. You've bought stock in a company, and you've been asked to your opinion on a matter that's basically critical to your own shares, and you don't have the ability to vote them. How frustrating must that be? And to me, that's actually one of the bigger issues in this whole thing. Is you're supposed to have a voice, and you don't actually have it in many of these situations. So I think that's the bigger issue. Now, in terms of what I see happening, if the vote is negative, basically, for example, on Elon's comp, if for some reason, people were to vote against that, I mean, I think that could be taken a number of ways. I mean, you're basically saying that you're not, pro the CEO. You're not pro the CEO being paid, per the original plan that was originally voted on before. And it's almost like a vote of no confidence. I think that's a bad thing. But do I think that Elon is leaving? No, but I think this is more than that. I think this is really incumbent upon the board to structure the next compensation package, the one that can be rock solid, whether it's Delaware, whether it's Texas, and the one that's going to the whole thing here is about, first off, he should absolutely be paid for his 2018 comp plan, 100%. But to me, the higher order bit now is, how do you motivate probably the most sought after innovator in the world, and business leader in the world to say, like, I want to work at your company, Tesla. You're the board of Tesla. How do you motivate the most, desired person probably, in decades, maybe in history, to want to lead your company for the next 5 to 10 years? So what's the next compensation plan look like? How is Elon motivated? It's not all, you said it's not all about money. It's about controlling the stuff that he's developing here and having control over it. And if you look at these other companies like Facebook, for example, like Google, there's tremendous control in terms of how the shares are voted. And there's multiple classes of shares and so forth. In most situations where AI is developed, we don't even know what, the structure of OpenAI and how that's, ultimately going to play out. So anyway, long story short, I think, if the vote goes negative, I think the risk is how much of Elon's time from SpaceX, from XAI, from all Neuralink, from all the other things that he's doing, what slice of that are you going to have for Tesla? If you get him a great comp plan, if you make sure he's paid from the prior comp plan, and there's a great one moving forward, and he has the control, where I think he's going to want to do more stuff inside of Tesla and spend a lot more time in Tesla. I do think he loves the company. I do agree on these whole things of, it's his baby and so forth, but he's only got so much time. And if he has more control at the other companies and he's got ultimately more compensation opportunity, he's going to spend more time there. It's natural. So we got to get him the vote.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's the question, right? Is the board doing enough? Is it enough? Now, the good news is that we've seen them do things we haven't seen them before, right? Advertising, communication, actually incenting people to vote, contacting shareholders. Those things are happening. But if this is such a big deal, and many people believe it is, like you've just articulated, both of you, are they doing enough? Is there another kind of plan B? Pay the $6 billion to the lawyers, take it in the chin, do something like that. Is there something like that? Like, I'm sure there's going to be plan Bs and Cs, right?
So maybe I can add a little bit. So I agree to what Jeff is saying here. And just as a generic note, I'd like to appreciate your voice of reason, Jeff. I think we share both a supply chain background, and I like your thought process, and I think it's very valuable for the community sometimes not to be overly nervous and looking more at facts and deciding based on that. So your analysis about AI and Elon is pretty much resulting in an area, and I'm coming to the same conclusion, but on a different path. So my analysis here, or my assessment, is that Elon is a guy who is always trying to optimize everything to the total unbelievable optimum. So he's trying to make everything perfect. And you explained this nicely with the 20 different models from BYD, and Tesla's about 4 and all of that. Nobody believes that we will ever see BEV, that is the best-selling car in the world, and yada, yada, yada. We all know that. So it's kind of totally amazing what he's achieved there. Nobody's talking about that. So now we are in a situation where we have Elon is heading 2 companies who are both heading for AI. For the outside world, that looks totally strange, because why is he doing this all of a sudden when he is a person that is trying to be, optimizing and reducing costs and, having a high productivity? So as a matter of fact, these 2 companies approach AI a little bit in a different way. If we talk about full self-driving and robotaxis, we have a robot in terms of a vehicle, or probably later on a humanoid robot, who is performing certain tasks on the street, or let's say in plants and factories, which is one way how you can approach that. And the other one, which is a bigger fish, in my understanding, is AGI, which is a development of almost consciousness. I know it's a big word, but this is where we are going on the long run. So on the long run, for us humans, it's going to be very hard to distinguish if we are talking to machine or to some kind of intelligent person. And I think this is a pie in the sky Elon is looking for. So why? So we have these two trajectories, and we have Elon's giving us here some hints in terms of new information will come out soon, and this and that, and there's obviously the speculation that this is coming together, that we are going to have one artificial intelligence unit, kind of, or at least these two companies are working so closely together that they're almost one company. And there are different ways how you can structure this financially in terms of shares and,
Exactly.
joint venture and you name it. There's so many options how you can do it in a way that the companies are still separate, but they are kind of in one structure. They're financially bound together. And I could imagine following, and this is total speculation, I could imagine that Elon is waiting for the shareholder meeting to pass and to see what's happening. Because what he's looking for is he's looking for the influence in order to make sure that AGI is going the right direction. And I see the risk he is seeing with AGI long term. So therefore, I appreciate his approach to make AI and AGI a source of truth and not a source of a mirror of our societies, because we are going to get a very strange AGI if we go for that. So what he's maybe doing is maybe waiting for the shareholder meeting, and hopefully he's getting the influence he's looking for to be able to direct this larger AGI unit, which is probably shared between X and Tesla, and making sure that this is merged together in one effort, because it doesn't make any sense to invest 2 times in compute and to develop the solutions in parallel, although it's not exactly the same what they are doing. Long term, it's very important to develop this out of one hand, for the same reason you mentioned before, Jeff. You have all these interfaces in between companies that usually do not work, and Elon has proven that if you create a certain level of vertical integration, you can eliminate a lot of issues you have in organizations and with suppliers and suppliers of suppliers and so on, that usually break your neck and create a lot of costs and inefficiencies, which you would like to, just eliminate. And I believe Elon is a guy who's always repeating that paradigm in his world. And it wouldn't make any sense for me if we have a huge AGI development with X and we have huge investment with AI for Tesla, and this goes in parallel. I just can't imagine that long term that this is a solution he's looking for. But in order to sign up for it, I believe he wants to have the influence. And this is not about money. He doesn't care. I worked with billionaires one by one, sitting with them in cars, who told me many years ago in the internet bubble, who said, there's one bed I can sleep in, there's one car I can drive at a time, and I can live in one house at a time. So what all this billions doesn't mean a lot to me anymore. And Elon is long time past that point. I mean, he sold all his houses. It's not about money at all. It's about achieving something special. And Jeff, you said something very important, which is what motivates him. I believe if he gets a backing to have the influence on AGI and to develop that, this would be enough motivation for him really to invest another 10 years or more of his life to achieve that. But if it's not happening, maybe he's saying, okay, now we keep this separate. I have X where I have the influence. I can develop AGI on X without having all the hassle with Tesla if I bring this together and I keep these two things in separate units. That could be an option B, I believe.
Yeah, it can actually be even the opposite, which is they merge them, right? So let's talk about the three different possibilities. One is it's a simple partnership, just like SpaceX and Tesla, separate entities, they partner a lot. That could be the case between XAI and Tesla. It could be that, that there's much deeper relationship, like Tesla actually owns a percentage of XAI. The SEC filing showed that they were trying to raise $7 billion. They've now raised $5 billion, and Elon just tweeted out saying that it's going to come in two phases. Maybe Tesla is going to own a couple $1 billion worth of that as well. So they own XAI, some portion of that. But what about this concept where, okay, the shareholder meeting goes completely south? What about Tesla buying XAI? Now that XAI is worth $24 billion, they just raised $6 or $7 billion. Maybe they buy it, and that's how you get Elon getting 25%, that voting control that he wants. I know this is a crazy thought. Who knows if it even makes any sense at all? I'm just trying to think about the bold moves that could possibly happen. Is that even a possibility? What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, it'd have to be interesting how they structure it, because for all the reasons that he wanted XAI to be separate in terms of recruiting, in terms of also this this risk sharing of where he has control over AI. So I mean, if that were ultimately resolved with Tesla, maybe if it's a separate holding company, the structure would have to be it so they can continue to attract talent and continue to be able to innovate. But you really want that close collaboration between if you're developing the brain for the robot, or the brain for the call it the entertainment and control side of the vehicle, the non-FSD stuff, that you'd want some tight integration with the company that's doing the rest of that hardware, or doing the hardware for it, so, and the software for it on the layer one side. So I think I that could happen. I think that is an outcome that could happen. But I think he's going to want to grow it separately for a while. But let's see. There's a couple of $1 billion I think left open in this funding round. So who knows if they actually closed it? Who knows if someone's going to come in and add $1 billion or $2 billion if that were to be Tesla or somebody else, or they're just going to close it where it is. It's an interesting thing to ponder and think about.
Okay. And then this reorganization to Robotaxi, August 8th, he's going to do this. It's a big, bold move for him, right? To have made this call. It sounds like that's what happened. He, decided that it's time, and he made this decision. And then right after he made that announcement, you can see him making huge reorganization moves, cutting staff 10%. Some people think 20%, redeploying that money into buying more compute, and then just things he's doing that look kind of like we'll only be able to piece it after we see everything together of what he actually ended up doing to reorganize the company to set it up for Robotaxi. He himself has said that this is not betting the company. What do you guys think? Is this betting the company? Is it heading that direction?
It was never betting the company, also never in the past. This is kind of a word that is flying around all the time. I do not know what's meant with that, because all what Elon is doing is working his ass off to get the company into, cash flow positive and profitable and you name it, and growing and doing everything that's needed. I don't understand that. And the other one, which I don't understand, is for 10 years, Elon is talking about autonomous vehicles, and that this is the future, and robotaxis. And now we are in a situation where all of a sudden, with version 12, everything is going faster than expected, which is fantastic. And also the world is kind of shocked, and everybody is saying he's betting the farm. I don't understand that, because he was working towards that point now for a very long time, and now it seems like we are crossing a point where we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and where we probably can get into a situation that we really have robotaxis, or at least autonomy on so-called level 4, which means there's still someone in the driver's seat, but the car is totally driving on its own, and the person can do whatever it wants. It needs to take over if there's a pretty long period of warning up front, but that could be an interesting step in between. However, I see that there is. I mean, everybody's talking about it's a bold move and there's a lot of investment and nobody knows. I don't think this is anything bold here. It's just execution as we know it. Is there a risk that we have more accidents and more fatalities with full self-driving? Not really. I mean, look at the accident data that they are publishing for many years now. So what can happen? What is the bet about everybody is talking?
Yeah.
Everybody said there's big bet because there are no stocks anymore in cars. I won't buy a car anymore that has stocks because I hate them. In the meantime, I sometimes get the feeling people get totally wrong what's happening and forgot what was said 2 or 3 years ago, and they should really go back and listen carefully to the quotes and what Elon really said. There's a lot of interpretation in his words which doesn't align with the meaning of his words at all. And out of that, there is this kind of very strange sentiment in the media that has lately swept over to obviously a lot of Tesla bulls. And I've been kind of sitting in the arena and watching what's happening here. I mean, it was funny for me. I mean, if we talk about people, for instance, Gary Black or other people, I've been criticizing him after I've seen him the first time. So we had almost a discussion about this. This was back in the day at Battery Day, because I disagreed with him about a lot of things. And over the years, I disagreed with him more and more often. I had to realize he's a person who is very much coming out of the Wall Street thinking approach, and that's fine. But he was never really open to argumentation why, for instance, Giga Berlin is doing very well and why water is not a problem, which isn't. And I didn't get the feeling that he has any understanding about technology. And now we are in a situation where there's a lot of anger almost in the Tesla community, which I find kind of strange, because once again, go back to the roots, go back to the facts, listen carefully to what have been said, listen to it 2 or 3 times, and then make, sober analysis, assessment, and predictions based on that. And if you do this, then you end up with a pretty relaxed, prediction where the company is moving forward to. And I see this with ARK Invest. I see this with the Baron Fund and a couple of others, which I believe have a good understanding. Some are always expecting more will happen quicker than it's really happening. But at the end of the day, this all doesn't matter. Tesla is on a very, very good path to, crack robotaxis and full self-driving. And what we've seen with Optimus is extremely impressive. And comparing this to all the other humanoid robots out there who are plopping up right and left, I still see Tesla, for a lot of reasons, in a position that is leading. And one of those has to do with the financial capabilities of Tesla, which are unique. I mean, let's look at it. Elon just raised $6 billion, just like that, without any issues, for a company that everybody said, because he has fired 80% of the employees, that this company will go bankrupt. So it's easy for him to raise money, and without
Right. Those are two separate companies, XAI versus X.
Right. That's correct. But still, the the notion that
He can raise money.
Elon is creating an issue within its companies. I mean, if I Google Tesla in Germany, the first 10 headlines about Tesla are negative. And this is just totally strange. And I sometimes believe I'm living in a different reality. But I can't help myself because I look back at facts and the facts are clear. The technology is out there. It's not some voodoo. It's really happening. The cars are driving and they're driving fine, almost fully autonomous, not yet, but nearby. And sometimes I feel people should make a step back and not forget the bigger picture and really relax and try to understand what they are seeing and not listening too much to people who are whispering in their ears. And I'm also talking to myself. So I'm encouraging everybody really to do his own homework. And I believe most people just don't do that. And this is one of the bigger issues why a lot of so-called Tesla bulls are frustrated, jumped ship, and sold stock, and are now in the camp of voting against Tesla and against Elon, which is an emotional reaction, which, when we talked about it, doesn't make any sense in my perspective.
Yeah, I think that it's not a bet the company. If you were to bet the company and he went ahead with Robotaxi, you would not be creating different versions of the affordable car. You would start showing signs you're going to stop making these drivable cars and just focus your attention on the Robotaxi if you're truly going to bet the company, because if you believe so much. And then in terms of bold moves, tell me if I'm wrong here, but this is like a line of thinking. The bot is going to be, it's looking like it's going to be the single largest market. It's going to be incredible how big that market can be, the revenue you can get from that, the margins you can get from that. Why would he leave Tesla? If it's that big, and I know that his concern is about the control, they would find a way to make that happen, because this is his opportunity. Like, you know what I mean? The potential for Tesla stock, if he is here and he makes the bot successful, it's the biggest jump, even bigger than Robotaxi. Didn't he say? Like, it's like, I don't know, magnitudes bigger than Robotaxi. And that already is magnitudes bigger than auto business. Do you guys, you know what I mean? Like, I'm saying that this is so big, the potential is so big, they will find a way to make sure he gets what he thinks that he needs to have.
Yeah, no, I think they need to.
Yeah,
sorry, Alex.
I think, as I said before, and Jeff said the same, there are different ways how they can guarantee that Elon gets the influence he's looking for. And you gave some options and scenarios, Herbert, how they can structure that. And everything is possible. That's the beauty of the situation. This is a huge company. Elon doesn't have any restrictions. He doesn't care what people think what he's doing, which is great, because he has an objective and he has a mission, and he's going after that mission. And if that mission means that, I don't know, Tesla is buying XAI, then he will do it, period. There will be a lot of drama, and everybody will say he's betting the farm again, and I don't know. But at the end of the day, he will achieve his objective, and that's all that matters. So is he unconventional? Yes, that's why he's so successful. I mean, again, I'm just shaking my head from the morning to the dawn, because I just don't get what people are talking about often. It's strange, and sometimes I feel like they should have a cold shower and just
Sure.
relax a little bit, or just get off X for a week or so to get their head straight again, because I mean, people are angry about what Elon is doing, and I'm happy. So, and this is happening every day. So I'm just, is everything he's doing perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, as you indicated, Herbert, betting the farm, for instance, would mean Elon would say, okay, we stop producing vehicles. We don't do this anymore. And Tesla Energy, we are selling to someone else. And now all the money we have, we invest into Gen 2 for robotaxis, and that's it. So we are
By the
just
way,
going.
yeah, if he wanted to do XAI and he goes, okay, I'm gonna leave Tesla, he needs energy. He needs those mega packs. He needs to be able to build those data centers. So he can't just leave Tesla and say, see you later. I'm gonna just focus on XAI now.
Right. But what we are seeing is that they are very likely going the direction that the Gen 2 platform will have two versions of a compact car. One would be a robotaxi without any stalks and controls, and the other one will be a compact car that you just can sell into the market for 25K or so. And that is a risk mitigation strategy, because if for whatever reason full self-driving takes longer, regulation makes problems with getting autonomous vehicles out there in the market, they still can produce these cars and sell them as compact cars. And you guys know in Europe, everybody is loving these small cars and they will sell like hot cakes. So there will be no problem to sell them. So Tesla has no risk here. So everybody is saying he's betting the farm, he's going erratic and he's crazy. And I'm saying he's mitigating the risks. So that's why I'm happy with my money there. It's an undervalued company for a variety of reasons, and the CEO, the founder, is doing the right steps to make it order of magnitudes bigger. And I also agree to that what you said, Jeff, that I expect a new comp plan will give targets that are in the trillions of market cap for Tesla. And that makes totally sense. So, and everybody will again say this is unachievable, this will never happen, and he's betting the farm, and it's all about money, which isn't the case. But it's all repeating itself, and that's why I'm saying, stay cool and look at the facts, make your assessment for yourself. Just to give you one example, at the earnings call, I usually are not on any platforms. So I'm only listening directly to the source. And I sleep overnight without reading anything to come up with my own thoughts, process. And then in the next morning, I just absorb what other people are thinking. Why I'm doing that? Because I'd like to get my mind straight about what I heard and what I've been listening to and what they've been saying. And obviously, often the next morning, I listen to the entire call again to get all the details or read through the script. And I don't think that anybody's doing that. By listening to other people, there's a big risk that you early on are influenced from someone spinning your thought process, and then you're on a certain road which is difficult to turn away from. So, but that's long talk, and that's just my thinking here.
Yeah, I think getting back to, I love all the points from Alex. I don't think this is a bet the company moment. Tesla's already tracking their trajectory. If you look at what they've done on the OpEx side, if you look at what they've done in the factories in terms of kind of trimming things up and getting really fit on the cost side, I think they're trending back to 20% gross margins. If you look at what's happened with MSRPs and pricing, I like the comment from Alex, signal versus noise. Tremendous noise on MSRP, but if you actually look at the signal and you actually graph MSRPs and then graph COGS decline, you'll find that they're tracking within 1% to 2% over the last 12 calendar months. So this isn't some Tesla's just continuing to take MSRPs down and they don't have a strategy. They absolutely have a strategy. And phase one of that early last year, what just people don't seem to want to grasp, is we were in a COVID bubble that inflated prices, that inflated input costs, and therefore we had to inflate the prices of products. And that bubble had to pop. And that's what Tesla did. That was a price correction. That was the many thousands of dollars, 15, 20% reduction in MSRPs that occurred January to April last year. Since then, they've been tracking relatively close to COGS. And now what they're doing is we're at the end of this rate hike cycle, and we're at the point now where we're going to be pointing towards cuts. So now is the time to say, all right, let's relieve the burden through financing to where we think we're going to be able to refinance this debt in the future. We can do this on a more slower pace. We can have our residual values of our cars are going to improve and basically stabilize. Now's the time to take this bet. In terms of, again, bet the company moment, they wouldn't be doing these next generation, these vehicles between now and the Gen 2 platform. So I think they're going for north of 20% gross margins again. I think they're going to drive energy north of 30% gross margins. And I think you're going to have, when you look back a year from now, these new products have to ramp up. So they have to ramp up these newer vehicles. So in their first quarters, they won't be there. But I think you're going to see from a terminal gross margin perspective, an auto business north of 20, going to 25, an energy business going north of 25 to 30% gross margins. So you're going to have two really solid hardware driven things with this businesses with this FSD and Robotaxi platform. Where's that going to be a year
margins?
from now? Right. Where's that going to be a year from now? You see where the pace of improvement we have here. And then finally, the bot. So the bot is being set up. There's no other company that's building a bot that builds 2 million cars and builds all the energy that Tesla supplies. There's no other company that does that has that supply chain doing that. So I actually think there's massive enterprise execution risk from these other companies. Like if you're investing in these companies and you're investing in the R&D effort and what you see from a capability perspective, I would be very wary of these companies, their ability to actually mass scale a robot. I am not wary of Tesla's ability to mass scale a robot. I actually think this is where they have a tremendous advantage. They already have it on the AI side. They're ultimately going to have it on the design for manufacturability, hitting the low price point, and the capability and the actuator manufacturing that they're going to be able to in-house. And I think Tesla's going to have a tremendous advantage. I think other people will build bots. Other people will ramp and scale bots. They will not scale at the slope. They will not scale as profitably as Tesla is on doing these. And therefore, Tesla will have a larger percentage of this market and for I would say a fairly decent period of time. And so when I look at, is this a bet the company moment? Elon himself has said it. So let's take the other side of this. Elon himself has said, Tesla is not worth much without FSD being solved, without Robotaxi. So if you take him at his word, there is something to that. But I see a tremendous auto business. Again, that's valued one way right now in terms of its competitors. But then you have the energy side of it, and then you'll have the bot side of it, and then you'll have FSD, which is already at a point right now where it's at a point right now where other companies, literally, probably while we're recording this broadcast, are in negotiations with Tesla to license the solution. And we don't even talk enough about that. You don't hear analysts talking about that a lot. You just hear them talking about current quarter, next quarter, what's on the Bloomberg terminal for this year versus next year. But you've really got to look at, Tesla. You absolutely have to look at the EPS and revenue. You have to look at it because it's declined 3 years in a row. So you have to look at that. But then you also have to look at the product roadmap, the maturity of where they've got it to, and the level of risk or the amount of risk that's ahead. I'm not saying it's low risk ahead. I'm just saying that they've solved for they've de-risked a tremendous amount of this up to this point. If this were a year ago and we were making these decisions, I think we would all agree that this would even be much higher risk. But now we're on the other side of rates. We're on the other side of the MSRP reductions. We're at this point now with FSD where we think you can scale logarithmically in terms of Tesla's AI capability. So I think it's a good spot. I'm not saying it's not without risk. You have this shareholder meeting coming up. You have, even people reacting to near-term quarterly earnings. But, I would say that I can't think of another company that's set up for even for greater growth than where Tesla is today, even including NVIDIA in that conversation. If you look at NVIDIA's growth over the next couple of years, it's not like 100% per year anymore. They've gone through that phase. I'm not saying, by the way, that it's a bad investment at this point. I'm just saying, if you look at the growth that Tesla could have ahead of itself right now, I can't think of another company that has that amount of growth in front of them. They just have to execute.
So,
if I can jump in, I think very important points here from Jeff. One thing that's always annoying to me is that, I'm a tech guy, I'm an engineer by education, and I'm always looking as deep into technology as I can in order to evaluate vehicles, BEVs, and also robots and AI, and you name it. But the key point, and it sounds boring for people, but it needs to be said and repeated again and again, is mass manufacturing. And without that, you will never bring the cost down to a level that you have a competitive advantage. And Tesla is doing this in a brilliant way, and everything is doing, everywhere he's doing that. That's number one. And the number two that's always overlooked, and Jeff, you touched on it too, is you have to have an economic model that allows you to grow faster than anybody in a profitable way. And Tesla has this established over the years. There's no company better positioned to push robotaxis out in the market on a very high scale, very quickly. And this will break the neck of any competition. And the same is true for the humanoid robots. So if people are looking at the joints and how many, degrees of freedom they have, and, batteries and consumption and what they can do, and you name it, I'm always saying that's all fine and great, but it doesn't help you if you can't have a structure and organization that helps you to scale this and that helps you to build an economic model that is, that enables you to grow in the key markets very quickly and conquer the industry or the market. Just the simple thing that Optimus can be used in Tesla factories just like that. And Tesla has no risks. They don't need to talk to anybody. There's no negotiation with anybody. They can test it just like that. And if they have any issue with materials, they can talk to SpaceX and material science people and you name it. So you get my point. I call this really Musk Industries, what we have here. And they are working all together, although they are separate organizations, and they're working all together. And this is a unique capability that Elon has built, and he's using that to grow his organizations. And another point you made, Herbert, is that the cuts have been too heavy. And I just want to give you one example. You probably know that Giga Berlin has more than 12,000 employees right now, and they got green light for the expansion. So they're growing, by the way. The world is just acting like they are bankrupt. And they've been firing about 300 people out of this 12,000. So this doesn't sound like 10%, right? Mm-hmm. Not like 20% and not like 30%. And I see a lot of new jobs plopping up too. So you could probably even argue that the 10% cut is not being established everywhere on the scale you want it. You want to have it. And so that's in terms of noise and signal and all what's going out there, right? And in the beginning of the call, you've been asking me about the sentiment of Elon in Germany and in Europe, which I believe for the US, it's probably very hard to get a sense about the sentiment here. And obviously, it's just my understanding how things are. But it's fair to say that from from the largest bulk of Germans are really backing what Tesla is doing. So there is a lot of negative media out there and a lot of noise. And there are some people who are making a lot of noise. And you've all seen it in the pictures and videos, what happened lately with Giga Berlin, the demonstrations and all of that. But this is just a very small and narrow group of people. And they are making a lot of noise and creating an impression which is really not out here. If I talk to ordinary people, my neighbors here, who just don't know anything about Tesla really, they have no negative impression about Elon or Tesla. This is not the case. If you think in the politicians, it's really just the very right wing and the very left wing who are against Elon. Everything else is very supportive, and they are believing that Giga Berlin is a blessing for Germany, the right thing, and they are supporting that. So I would be happy if this would be communicated better in the world, that there's not really a negative sentiment about Tesla here in Germany, but some people are negative, and this is normal. I mean, you have this everywhere, right? But these people are getting really the center stage, and they can talk a lot in the media, and there's an impression brought out there which doesn't reflect reality in my understanding. And that's my thinking about it.
Okay. So we're talking about the bold moves that Tesla has made. I think there's one very bold move that Elon did, that he accomplished, that is Herculean, that matters the most, and that is the partnership with China. What he's able to do there is so big, so important, and it's unbelievable, right? The biggest reason why Jim Chanos was shorting Tesla was he believed that at any moment China could turn on Tesla. In fact, the opposite happened. Elon was able to convince them to partner very closely and then now open up. And there's a race now for Robotaxi. I just think that with Elon, anything can happen. And he's just able to create the biggest, boldest moves that no one else can do in the world. So any final thoughts on any of this?
No, I just, in China, from the very beginning, back even before Shanghai was built, the way that he constructed that relationship, both the way he showed face in China, and you have to respect the local laws, you have to respect their local traditions. He basically leveraged like what they're really good at, and they're good at a number of things, and they're getting better. But he really leveraged what they're really good at. But he created a relationship that didn't really sell Tesla out or their assets. And it was really about this. We're a separate company. We're not a joint venture. And that move told you two things. And I've done a lot of business in China and built a lot of manufacturing in China. What it told me was that Tesla had something that they want. And that is a very important thing for people to understand. When they think like China's going to turn and China's going to do this or China may do that, China wants Tesla. China wants Elon. They want the leadership team. It's working out. What's happened over the last 6 years, you can say right, wrong, or indifferent, but Tesla presented and showed this leadership in China, building out and ramping EV manufacturing. And a number of different EV startups and companies have also ramped concurrently. And now China is the world's EV leader in EV. And that's what China ultimately wanted. They wanted the ability to serve their population, but they also wanted to be the export leader in a product. Because when they can do that, there's tremendous, obviously, gains from that financially for them. And this has been something that's been very long in the making. So for people that are betting against the stock, they're betting on things that they really only have a cursory understanding of. Unless you're really deeply involved in the company or you're in the inside of the company, you're not going to know these things. And this is what I say online so much about when people start talking about inventory or people start talking about a number of different things. They're guessing, and they're actually not even, to me, they're not even educated guesses about how things really work. There's things that you can only know when you're inside of that effort and you're inside of that relationship versus being on the outside of it. And the shorts have definitely guessed wrong on Tesla in China. Is it going to be under some stress right now in terms of competition? Sure. But I think Tesla has the tools to compete, and they're still competing quite well. They're the only foreign automaker that's meaningfully competing right now in China. So I think there's more good things to come. I think FSD now is going to give a big, huge a boost both in technology and in gross margins, and they're inside of China. So I think there's more really good things to come. And remember, it's a population of 1.5 billion people. It's not like you can just ignore it.
Good. Okay. Thank you both very much, Alex. Appreciate you joining us. Great to share your thoughts and your analysis. It's great to hear you, because you have, like I've been saying, a very strong conviction in Tesla. You've kept it, and I like the way you're just independently reviewing things and still believe that this is heading the right direction, just like we do. Thank you very much, and thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate you so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Herbert.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.